What kind of fees are you paying inside of your 403b account? If you're like most people, you don't have any idea what it is. So in this video, I'm actually going to break down the different levels of fees that are inside of 403b accounts just to bring to light the many different factors or areas that fees can be charged in your 403b plans. Now, before we dive into it, it's important to know that while fees are an important consideration, it should not be the sole consideration for the same reasons why you don't drive the cheapest car, live in the cheapest home, or see the cheapest doctor. There are benefits and features that you may be willing to pay for by choosing a higher cost option. So fees are important, but not the sole decision. Alright, so now let's go through them all. So 403bs, there are different types. There are annuity-based 403b plans and what we call mutual fund-based plans, or traditional. So these plans can have up to 4 different layers of fees on them depending on the provider you choose. Now there are probably over 30 different providers out there, and depends on who your school district or employer allows. So the first thing you want to check into is what 403b company you're going to go with, and you want to dig through their fee structure to see kind of where all the different ins and outs are of what they charge you. So to start off with, we have what we call Tier 1 fees, which is the administrative costs. These are costs that whatever company you choose to go with charges you to maintain a plan with that company. So these fees can be from administrative costs, which are either a flat dollar amount or even a percentage of the assets under management. They can have things like statement fees, contract fees, things like that. They all usually kind of lump them in to what they call an admin fee. So again, you can either be charged on a percentage basis, a flat dollar basis, or both. Typically we see something like $25 a year for the account until your account reaches $5,000 or $10,000. Then that goes away. Then you're just paying like a 0.1 or even a 0.4% administrative charge. So the administrative charge can have a wide range depending on the company you choose. If you're going to go with an annuity-based plan, which is probably what 90% of people have without knowing it, these ones have what they call an M&E fee. That's mortality and expense charges. So this is just a different method that they use to charge their administrative costs. These things can range from 0.8 to 1.5%. And this is a structure that these annuity companies use to charge you for their product. And that's how they kind of pay their advisors or agents from that. They pay them a commission, and it comes from that annual M&E fee. So that's the layer 1 fees. That's the administrative cost to set up the plan. The next tier is when you get the money in the plan, you're going to want to invest it, right? That's how you're going to make money. So you're going to have to choose where do I want to invest it. No matter where you put it, there's going to be fees associated with it. Whether you choose index funds, mutual funds, or even if you leave it in a money market account, chances are there's still some level of fee to it because those providers don't work for free. So you're going to have what they call an expense ratio charge on them. So these expense ratios are something that usually doesn't get disclosed initially. Yeah, they'll show you kind of what the cost is to get into that fund. But when you look at your annual statement or monthly statement, there's no line item that says expense charges for your investments and shows you the dollar cost amount. They kind of just get bundled into the product or the 403b account. So they're not really clear what those fees are unless you take a deep dive into it and pull up what those fees are for each investment that you have. Sometimes companies will discount the expense ratio for a period of time. So if you bring up a fund sheet and it says, hey, the fee's only 0.1%, sometimes there'll be a little asterisk next to it and says, this is a temporary charge, and then a year from now, the fee goes to 0.5%. So sometimes these fund companies will discount fees to try to encourage people to get assets into them. Like most people, you're going to forget about that, and your fee's going to tick up in the account internally, and you'd have no idea that that fee waiver expired, and now you're paying a little bit more for that same investment. So that's just another thing to keep in mind when looking at different 403b products. All right, the next layer of fees is optional, and that's the advisory fee. So if you choose to work with an advisor, they may charge a fee to manage that account. Now, fees can range from 0.25% to up to 2% for the advisor's time. It depends on what they want to charge. If you set up the account on your own, then you are your own advisor, so there's going to be no fee there. And if you're using the annuity-based products, because you have the M&E fee and your advisor's working on commissions, there is no advisor fee for that. Now, the next layer of fees is something that's pretty rare in Washington, but it's what they call TPA fees. That's your third-party administrator fees. So to put it simply, every school district out there that offers 403b accounts typically has a third-party administrator that manages the different providers and is responsible for processing, loan forms, the salary reduction agreement, sending money out to the different vendors and such. So sometimes these TPA providers want to get paid for what they do, and they will charge you separately for them. Now, for most 403B providers, they actually pay the TPA themselves. So for example, if I have a 403B account, say with Vanguard, they may choose to pay the TPA expense on my behalf. I'm only going to pay the expense ratios plus admin fees. The TPA funds are kind of bundled in, or the Vanguard would take care of in that case. So most 403B companies are on this list. When I reviewed Omni 403B, which is a really big TPA provider in Washington State, they have a list of different companies that are on there. And the one big one that was missing from that list was Fidelity. So big company, but for a reason they were not on that list. So if you have a Fidelity 403B account, you may want to double check to see if you're paying a TPA fee. But pretty much every other major 403B player was on that list, meaning that they do cover the TPA costs. So this is a rare fee to see, but it's something that you double check for. So to kind of summarize it all up, if you have a 403B account that is an annuity-based one, you're going to be paying an M&E fee, mortality and expense charge. You may or may not be paying a contract fee. Usually these are just charged on accounts with less money in them, because charge percent of someone's account that only has $100 in it doesn't make a lot of money. So they have a flat charge until you get a certain dollar amount. So you're going to be paying the M&E fee plus a contract fee depending on the size of your account. You're going to be paying the expense ratio fees on those. And if you're using a mutual fund based 403B account, then you're going to be paying the administrative costs, potentially a contract fee. The expense ratios are still there, and you may or may not have an advisory fee depending on if you're working with an advisor or not. For most people, 2 to 3 layers of fees is what exists in the plan. Now, as far as what these costs are in total, they can range from 0.25% to 3%. It all depends on the company you choose and how the fees are structured. So if you go to a place like Aspire Financial to set up your 403B account, they have an admin fee of about 0.15%. Plus they have 10,000 different investment options. You can get low cost index options there, such as Vanguard or Fidelity, and you could very well have a 403B account that your all-in cost is 0.25%. Now, while that is a cheap option, you have to keep in mind that if you're going to go that route, you're responsible for everything. So you're going to be the one that has to set up the account. You have to fill out the salary reduction agreements each time you want to make a change, and you have to communicate with payroll. If it comes to the time where you wanted to move money around, take a loan out, take a hardship, you're responsible for all of the paperwork, making sure it gets done in the correct order, following up on things, and it can be kind of a hassle. And if you're a busy person like most of us are, managing your 403B account and trying to maneuver all the different loopholes and things that come in with those paperwork forms may not be worth your time. So for that reason, you may choose to have an advisor on the account to help you manage everything. They'll be in charge of picking the investment funds, making changes to it, any paperwork that comes your way, they're going to help you fill it out, or at least they should be. Oftentimes you can get them pre-filled and they do all the follow-up and the legwork behind the scenes. So when you have the advisor, really all you have to do is sign the form a couple of times, and then they should be able to take it from there. So that's just one reason why you may want to choose to pay a little bit more for a 403B account. All right, so hope that makes things a little bit clearer. Now, before you leave today, make sure you grab a copy of my book, The 7 Money Murdering Mistakes That Washington Teachers Make. It's chock full of information on ways that you can improve your finances and ultimately avoid these mistakes that can easily cost you thousands, if not tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars in your lifetime. It's a free download. The link is in the description below. I'll see you guys next week. Remember that your future depends what you do today.